final model I want to look at today is the four links model. And this we're looking at people linking together in four different ways: informal cooperative links and networks, formal cooperative links, complementers, and government links and networks. The first of these refer to areas when the occasions when organisations link together for a mutual or common purpose, without legally binding contractual relationship. They've been recognised as the providing an important means of understanding the strategy of organisations. They include many forms of contact, ranging from formal industrial bodies that represent industrial matters and other interested parties. For example, in some parts of the world like Japan and Korea, the networks are called Keiretsu and Chaebol. I apologise for anyone who realises that is awful pronunciation. And that provides a competitive advantage for those involved in it and excludes those that are not. In the political world, there are often things like social, sporting, and educational links. And there are actually a small, tiny little example of this on this very course. My Facebook, my LinkedIn account has many ex-students on it, and we just discuss politics or the situation in Egypt. So it can be quite interesting to find out what other people are up to and keep in contact with them. The second of these, formal cooperative links, can take many forms, but are usually bound together by some form of legal contact. They differ from the network described above in the higher degrees of formality and permanence of the link within the organisations. They're shown alliances, joint ventures, joint shareholdings in the business world, and they're used by many other deals that exist to provide competitive advantage and mutual support. But of course, they exist very much in the public sector world as well. The four links model includes government-to-government links. It includes the diplomatic links that I've talked to you about setting up. It includes educational contracts. It includes military investment. It includes some government-to-government agreements and things like that. It includes things like TTIP. It includes things like all sorts of agreements. So it's massive. Formal cooperative links are massive. They include things like formal political national trade agreements, NATO, other military alliances like that. All of these are examples of formal cooperative links. In complementers, these are companies whose product adds more value to the products of the base organisation than they would derive from their own product by themselves. For example, computer hardware companies are worth little without the software that goes with them. One product complements the other. In strategic terms, there may be real benefits of developing new complementary alternatives that enhance both parties and contribute further to the links that exist between them. Typically, complementers come from different industries with different resources and skills that work together to present new and sustainable joint offerings to customers. In political terms, there have been many historical links between various countries, and there's often things that can support them like that. So if it's in Africa, China and Zimbabwe has long links. Cuba and Angola have very deep historical links. US and Liberia have long links. Europe and just about everywhere, but not all of these are positive, remember. Support Ebola is an area where effort can be built on. So it's true that some of the things that, for instance, that these days that European countries are trying to do in Africa might not mean very much of themselves, but without the support of the Africans, without the complementing perhaps of European money with African know-how, without having people working together in this way, then they will not come about. The final of the four links models, of course, government links and networks. It concerns the relationship that many organisations have with countries' national parliament, regional assemblies, and associated government administrations. In case of the EU and other international treaties, these clearly extend beyond national boundaries. Such contract may be formal through business negotiations, investment, legal issues, or tax matters. It may also be informal through representation in government industry organisations in connection with investment and trade. Government links and networks can be vital in tax and legal matters such as interpretation of competition law. Equally, government can be important customers of organisations. For example, in defence, equipment and pharmaceuticals, many organisations have come to devote significant time and effort developing and cultivating such relationships through lobbying and related activities. How does this convert to the public sector, the NGO sector, to the continuum of things? Well, there are clear, obvious links there. But on government to government, the links and networks are things like the United Nations. Africa has lots of UN votes, and those can be quite useful in trying to get things through. So there are quite often reasons why, for instance, China has supported numerous things in Africa in the hope of getting their support for other things in the United Nations. And of course, there are quite a number of other international organisations, the IMF, for example, the World Bank, the forerunner tariffs and the World Trade Organization and its forerunner organizations, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, etc. So how do we operate again? Operate very similar with methodology. Try and work out all the links you have and all that you would need. write them on post-it notes, and this is a place on the links board showing all the different possible links and how they can reinforce and disrupt one another. This is a big place for your systems thinking, to how your different parts, your system parts, work together, and how you can, from those, build up a true picture of what's going on. So from all of the different things we talked today, from your pestle, from your 4 links, from your competitive environment, from all these sorts of things, what are we trying to do? Well, the aim actually is to identify the opportunities and threats using that will be generated from that. You must produce prioritized lists, produce opportunities to explode, threat to overcome. Items can appear on both lists. They can be both opportunities and threats. So remember, applying these tools of analysis is not an end in itself. It is only useful if the issues that emerge in the analysis are combined to a prioritized list of issues facing the organization. One way to organize this, list all the issues into a series of opportunities and threats, preferably rank all the most pressing issues at the top of the list. It's possible that items can appear as both opportunities and threats. For example, new IT technology could be an opportunity. It may enable the streamlining of function. It may be a threat because of the cost implications of installing the equipment. In Lecture 6, we'll look at in later lectures, in later sessions, you'll actually be bringing these opportunities and threats together. And we're looking at how we can use this priorities list in combination with the internal strengths and weaknesses you will get and develop next week. So just a quick final use of all this information is, of course, the idea that we're looking to locate strategic gaps. We're looking for things that we can actually do that are not being done. To a certain extent, threats and opportunities are the things that already exist. Strategic gaps are the things that do not exist. It may be, on the whole, looking for things that we can fill, gaps that we can fill. But it may also be potentially gaps that our opposition can fill, or that people can fill in a manner that becomes a threat to us. So, for instance, it might well be that there's a strategic gap in the fact that perhaps a certain communication device isn't available in a certain market. That might be a very simple form of strategic gap. But it might be a much more complex strategic gap in the fact you've identified that certain needs are not being met in some way. And they can be a variety of different types of strategic gaps. So most strategic gaps are a specific type of opportunity of something that is missing. And they can be related to perhaps political positions, ideas that people have, that people want to be able to fill, that people are actually not offering at the moment. They can relate to the idea that strategic groups that perhaps you're not operating alongside, strategic group join. There might be strategic spaces of which you are not part of. It could be related to the fact that chain of service use. There can be a large number of people receiving part of a service, being operating part of a service, especially on an international basis. And it may well be that somewhere in that chain of service users, there's a break that will allow you to link to other service users and by filling that particular gap, you might make a huge leap in the kind of services you provide. It may be complementary areas of operation. It may well be the things that you do will also be useful to somebody else. You haven't noticed that. You haven't started to fulfill those needs yet. Or it could be new target segments of the population. It could be marketing initiatives where you can say, well, actually, we've been doing this for a certain age group, but perhaps that age group is getting older and we can go with it in that age group. Or it could be, well, there are other new, younger people coming through, new customers that we need in order to keep going in the future. And so, of course, this is very much related to the idea that populations change, populations are dynamic. Organizations cannot stand still. What may seem, though, is not a gap may develop as population ages, or population grows, or populations move from one place to another.